Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne, and in this podcast, I share my real-world self-publishing and small business experience with you. So let's get started with today's show. I offer a number of courses on Udemy, which is the online training course platform. And every once in a while, I'll have a student who is just struggling with the material. And it usually stems from their impatience with themselves or the material. Here's an example. In my course, How to Self-Publish an Audiobook, one of my students sent a message about some difficulties she was having with audio files she had recorded prior to taking the course. She wanted to know if I would review those files and tell her what was wrong with them. Well, for the price I charge for the class, no, I'm not going to do any private consulting for that. But I had to look a little deeper into the situation, and I noticed that the student had not completed the course. In fact, only about 10% of the course was completed at the time I received the message. So some days go by and I get another flurry of questions from the student, basically asking about the same thing. At this point, only about 30% of the class was done. So I told her to keep trying, finish the course, and then see where she's at. Now here's the problem. She doesn't have the persistence or tenacity to learn how to do this herself, but she wants to get it done. And I understand that. We all want to get our stuff out into the world as soon as possible. But if I get some more messages like this from the student, I'm going to have to recommend that she hire some professional audio engineering help. Here's the problem. They don't know what they don't know about self-publishing. Most self-published authors don't come from a publishing or printing or digital content background. So they don't really know how it works. They can print a document on their inkjet printer, so what's the problem? Isn't book printing the same thing? And they don't know how to create a good user experience on a mobile device with things like responsive design. And for audiobooks, they can record something on their phone on a voice memo and think that, well, that's an audiobook. Well, not really. So they're puzzled by why this self-publishing thing is so difficult. Self-published authors don't realize that they need to become entrepreneurs. Most writers are technicians. In his classic book on entrepreneurship, The E-Myth, Michael Gerber notes that many people who want to be entrepreneurs are really just technicians at their craft. They enjoy doing what they do, but they don't enjoy being in business or any of the things that go along with it. And if you're serious about self-publishing, even if it's a serious hobby, you need to behave more like an entrepreneur. So here are the skills self-published authors need to learn. First of all, editing. Yes, you need to learn to self-edit your books. And that's regardless of whether you hire professional editors and proofreaders for the final manuscript. You need to be able to look at your work more objectively. So self-editing is a key skill that you need to develop. You also have to know how to choose a business model for your self-publishing efforts. I know that sounds pretty complex, but it's really not. You really have to be able to look at a self-publishing platform as a partner in this adventure and evaluate whether they have the services and support to work with your self-publishing business. You need to learn print, ebook, and audiobook production and quality control. Even if you hire some outside help, you need to get used to what is a publishing standard for any of the formats that you're publishing in. And that takes experience and it takes a lot of practice, and there's just no way around it. You also need to have basic accounting skills. No, you don't have to take a full-blown accounting program or anything like that. There's just a few main skills that you need to be able to do. Most of them are pretty easy. You need to be able to keep good records of your expenses, the production costs for your books, and your publishing income. And you need to be able to create a profit and loss statement or projection. That's a pretty basic accounting skill, but is so critical because that will help you figure out what kind of prices you need to charge for your books, as well as if you are making or losing money from your self-publishing. And book sales and marketing. The most hated of the skills, but it's really the most necessary. Basically, this means the ability to build and maintain an author platform, which is also known as your fan base. It may also include advertising, but that's not always a requirement. And regardless of what marketing methods you actually use, you need to be able to evaluate the results of your book marketing and sales efforts. Then there's the soft emotional skills. You need to have the ability to communicate with your fans on social media and elsewhere online, and you have to make a commitment to that communication and always improving it. You also need to be able to handle rejection and accept criticism without taking it personally. Now, I realize that I have a really unfair advantage in many of these skill sets because I was in sales, marketing, advertising, and publishing for the majority of my career. But even if you're not like me and you didn't have any of those in your background, there's a wealth of resources from the self-publishing platforms you use, blogs, articles, YouTube videos, online courses, author forums, Facebook groups. There's so many resources that we have now, so there's really no excuse for not being able to learn how to develop these skills. Now, there's really three things that impatient self-published authors want, but here's what they really need. Impatient self-published authors might not want to invest the time and effort in the research and learning process that this will take. They just want their books done now. They want them done perfectly and easily and done for as close to free as possible. So what's the saying? Fast, cheap, or good, pick two. And that quote has been attributed to filmmaker Jim Jarmusch. What these authors really need is self-awareness. They need to understand that they don't have the patience and tenacity to do it by themselves. Their books will still be self-published if they hire outside help, but they have to realize that that's not going to be cheap, even though it might be fast and good. Here's the one self-publishing skill I don't think you should ever outsource, and that is book marketing and sales. I know you probably hate it. A lot of authors do. Because they hate it so much or find it so mysterious, a lot of self-published authors will just turn over the book marketing and sales function to anyone, any charlatan online that says they have the secret to making all kinds of book sales. No, they don't. No one does. And it's changing all the time. Your self-published book marketing boils down to one thing, and that is building and maintaining your author platform and fan base. No marketing outside help can build a loyal following for you. There's no substitute for you personally connecting and engaging with your fan base. I hope you have found this helpful, And if you did, please rate, review, and subscribe to The Heidi Thorne Show on whatever podcast platform you like to get your podcasts on. I'm on Apple Podcast and Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, Podbean, and Amazon's TuneIn Radio. If you like the YouTube videos better, that's great. You just have to subscribe to my Heidi Thorne YouTube channel and turn on the notifications so that you know when a new video is available. Please share the podcast or the video with your friends on social media. My self-published books are available on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. All you have to do is search for my name, Heidi Thorne, and look for my author page, and all the books that are available will be listed there. If you'd like to connect with me, my website is very simply HeidiThorne.com. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. I'll look forward to talking with you again in the next episode, and in the meantime, have a great day.